Welcome everybody to Spiritually Raw. How are you? Hope you're having a fantastic day today. And as always, we hope you're ascending. We hope you're manifesting. We hope you're getting a lot of cool shit in your life. And again, if you're not only one, but we got two people here to help you out here today. You know, you guys probably know Chris Rice, RiceTBX, right? RiceTBX.com. So make sure you check out his works if you haven't already. And we got a new soul brother that a lot of you are probably going to be seeing on the circuit very soon here, Julio Marcano. Okay. AKA Mr. 5D Trader. So we're bringing these guys out here today because, you know, April and I are really passionate about what this 5D economy is, which is becoming abundant by helping others become abundant, right? Like the real spirit of life here. And these two guys are really the embodiment of that. I mean, Chris has his channel. He's really out there, really helping fight the good fight, helping people, you know, get a lot of insight and wisdom. Julio, you'll meet him here. You know, he's just really passionate about what's happening there. So, again,
and they love the 5D economy, and so do we. Yeah. Let's be realistic. Everybody loves the 5D economy, and why not? It's becoming abundant by helping others become abundant, which is the way it's always been meant to be. And this is why we're bringing it back. We're resuscitating it. We are creating the 5D economy.
So this is manifestation in its finest. So let's get in a rhythm, everybody, and let's get to know our guests. So Chris Rice, how you been, man? It's good to see you again.
It's great to see you.
I've been good, man. I've been busy, keeping myself occupied. It's been a while since we've talked, like, as far as like one of these conversations. So I do appreciate the invitation. Staying busy with the two channels. I definitely encourage people, if they're not familiar with me as a content creator, you can check out my website, RiceTVX.com, and you can actually watch both of my YouTube channels directly there on the homepage, which is Rice Crypto, covering the crypto, technology, economics, politics side of things. And then there's Rice Against the Grain, where we go down the rabbit holes of the stranger than fiction.
Nice, man. Well, it's been a minute since we spoke before, and then, you know, we wanted to kind of get you back on here to figure out what's going on new. People are needing a breakthrough. They don't know who to really talk to, and they just like things, probably some wisdom out here. So, Julio, a little bit about you, brother. You know, MBA master trader of stocks, cryptos, and forex. Can you let people know your energy, your reason really for wanting to kind of come out here and chat a little bit with people?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me in your show. I'm very honored to be here. And one of the reasons I got into trading, although I had a full-time job, is basically after the pandemic in 2020, I saw my 401k just tank and lost thousands of dollars that I've been accumulating for my whole life, you know, just working and living the American dream, right? So I realized that the 60-40 portfolio that most financial institutions have just doesn't work anymore on this type of economy. It has worked for the past 20, 30 years, but now we're in different times. You know, we're in the 5D economy time. So I decided to take that fund into my own hands. And within a few months, I was able to grow it back to what it used to be. And within a year, I doubled it. So something that took over 15 years for me to just double what I had.
That's inspiring.
Growing at this more, you know, 401k, very conservative, you know, riding the roller coaster of the financial markets, you know, the bull runs and the bear runs. So since then, I was like, you know what, I can definitely do this for a living. And I got, you know, I dived into it, started teaching myself. So I self-taught myself. Then I took a few courses. I started with a gentleman called Garrett Soloway, which is a master trader, and he has a fund. And, you know, I decided to do it on my own. And now I'm helping other people learn how to trade, learn how not to make the mistakes that I made when I first started. Obviously, there were different times back then when this started. We had a bull run of the crypto. Bitcoin went to 69,000. You know, whatever you bought just used to go up. So I grew up with that mentality. And then lately I realized that, you know, everything that goes up must come down. So
yeah.
And then I lost a lot of money, you know, back to, I wouldn't say square zero. I was more enough to put some money away, but definitely made some mistakes along the way. And now getting ready for the next bull run. There's a lot of exciting things happening in this economy. As you can tell, a lot of headwinds, but also a lot of tailwinds when it comes to the stock market, crypto, and so forth. So the goal is to basically do a holistic approach to teach people not only how to invest their money, how to diversify it, how to, you know, use certain tools in their portfolio to grow financially, but also, spiritually, because a lot of people are so focused about just making money and about just, becoming a millionaire, but in the process, they kind of lose themselves. And it's important to keep that balance, that yin yang between abundance and your own personal growth and development and spirituality.
Chris, you had something you wanted to say. I saw you kind of.
Yeah, Julio, you mentioned Gareth Soloway. He's been on my channel several times. I'd like to call him a friend. Are you in the Tampa, Florida area by chance?
I'm in Florida, but I'm not in Tampa. I've gone to his office a couple times.
Okay, yeah, I know he moved down there like last year or something to that effect.
Yes, they have a beautiful office, and now they're doing the daily videos, which I'm always tuning to. So he has
that's a good person to build a foundation of knowledge from learning about trading, because he and Nick Santiago and everybody else involved with not only Verified Invest Crypto, but InTheMoneyStocks.com, 20 plus years veteran traders who are very transparent about their trades and their profits and their losses and things like that. And there's obviously a lot more profit, a lot more winning trades than losing trades. And that's kind of an understatement. You might have like 2 out of 100 bad calls.
Absolutely.
That's pretty extraordinary. That's impressive.
So, guys, I want to also say, as we get into this conversation, so, we got to say this, disclaimer, no investment advice here.
I'm not a financial advisor. I'm definitely not a financial advisor. Nothing that comes out of my mouth should be taken as financial advice.
Yeah. Danny, if you're watching, you'll be proud of that statement, I'm sure. I love it. So yeah, listen again, but you guys, again, I want you to see this, because this is manifestation process. Because Chris, you and I were speaking yesterday, and off air, and you were like, man, I didn't get into this for the money, but you got out this for good works. Can you talk a little bit about more why you dove into this? You got the channel, and really, what's your purpose been behind all this?
Good question. Okay, so I didn't tell you this part, but when I first actually made the jump to get involved in cryptocurrency, it was early 2017, and I had gotten caught up in an MLM. Basically, everything MLM is a scam. So I had gotten involved in an MLM scam, lost a significant amount of Bitcoin, and from that point, it really changed my mentality. I got into it as a hedge against the dollar, me seeing what was happening to the US dollar, what was happening to the banking system. That was my reasoning for getting into it. But then I also got greedy as well. Once I got past that kind of greed, the green-eyed monster, my thinking really started shifting more as to, and I kind of told it to you this way, AJ, is I'm in it for the change that these technologies will bring, not the cha-ching change. Because a lot of people are in this for monetary gain, and I'm not, and I've been very blessed to have monetary gain come out of it. But that, I think, kind of goes along with just being on a good path. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in life, the right things are going to come back to you. And I feel like I'm on that kind of a path. But I didn't get involved with this, like I said, because I was trying to turn $10 into $10,000. It wasn't to get more dollars. I'm actually a very anti-fiat currency individual. I try not to hold any actual fiat money, which is government money, central bank money. In our case here in the United States, Federal Reserve notes, debt-based notes. And I try to, for me personally, cryptocurrency is a way for me to expand what I have and to grow if I make the right decisions. And I always encourage people to make sure that they're doing their own research. So when I said I'm not a financial advisor, the information that I think that we're providing and we're trying to provide on this show, people can take this research, this information, and research it further and make sure that they're making educated decisions that work best for their particular situation, because everybody's situation is a little different. I look at things like gold and silver, precious metals, as a present tense way of me being able to preserve what I have. So investing in gold and silver isn't because you think that you're going to increase your dollar value. It's to preserve your dollar value.
Okay.
Because the dollar is designed, especially over the past few years with all the inflation that we've experienced, to lose purchasing power, to lose value due to the inflation. So things like gold and silver and precious metals throughout history have proven themselves as a store of wealth for you to be able to maintain your purchasing power that you lose by keeping it in the dollar. And then I look at things like cryptocurrency as a future way of it being able to expand what I have. And again, that's just making the right decisions. And where we're entering into the phase of cryptocurrency now that the traditional legacy system is getting involved, heavily involved. We're seeing a lot of talk about the Bitcoin spot ETF, which is a very big deal because these
Can you explain that, Chris? What exactly does that mean?
An ETF is an electronically traded fund, and it's a way of being able to utilize a financial instrument in the traditional system to be able to utilize the system in a traditional manner, like lending and things to that effect. A lot of these banks don't want to actually custody and hold the Bitcoin. So the ETF would be kind of a paper representation of the Bitcoin so that it can be used within a traditional system and they can financialize Bitcoin by using the ETFs. And there's a lot of ETFs that currently exist. It's just an electronic traded fund that allows you to trade whatever is in that particular basket or single basket of ETFs. In this particular instance, when you're dealing with a spot ETF versus a futures ETF, because there is a difference with the spot ETF, the entities that have the contracts have to actually back up the asset one for one. So when we saw a gold ETF being introduced in the 2000s, the institutions had to own for every piece of paper ETF that they had to have ownership of said asset, gold in this particular instance. So with Bitcoin, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the supply side of where we're at with Bitcoin.
Right.
Bitcoin can only ever be 21 million. All 21 million haven't been mined and produced. And of those potential 21 million, I would say at least 4 million to be probably just on fair side has been lost, locked up, and not going to be able to be retrieved in any manner because these are people that lost their seed phrases. This is early on in the Bitcoin game. They may have something happened to their computer. It got corrupted. They had no way to access any of their file information to be able to restore their wallet. So I hope that kind of explains things. But where we are headed now that the traditional legacy system is getting involved is for people to play a safe bet with cryptocurrency. Stick with what we're calling the blue chips, which would be like your Bitcoin and your Ethereum. And there's other coins that we can mention, but the coins that have, and in Bitcoin and Ethereum's case, when we're seeing regulatory actions happen, regulation coming in the United States, it's been stated pretty much that, and I wouldn't see these traditional financial institutions wanting to have a Bitcoin spot an Ethereum spot ETF if Ethereum wasn't in this category, is that Bitcoin and Ethereum have been deemed as not securities.
They have not felt that.
Which is a big deal because a lot of these other cryptocurrencies still can go through SEC situations, cases, be sued, and be deemed a security, be fined. A multitude of things can happen when a project is deemed a security, and people aren't really secure, don't know what a security is. I encourage you to do some Googling because securities kind of have to do with a combination of Social Security, the Banking Regulation Act, and a lot of things that had happened back in 1933, where they, I don't want to use the same word to define itself, but I would say securitize everything. It was just a way of being able to put everything into a financial formula to be able to either trade or manipulate whatever the situation might be. I don't know. Did I do well with that, Julio?
Yeah, you're awesome.
Yes.
I know there's a lot to jump in on. Julio, can I get your perspective on that, brother? And I think we were talking previously about kind of tagging on what Chris said about the regulation coming or regulation that's here. Can you speak to that a bit?
Yes, absolutely. So, Chris, that was a lot of valuable information there for the viewers. So thank you for kind of like giving us an overview about an ETF and what's going on with the crypto market. As a side note, I know the Bitcoin ETF approval is due to happen, I believe, the beginning of January. There's several institutions such as BlackRock, Vanguard, that they have already filed and they've been talks with the SEC, and they're supposed to have an approval, or at least they have a deadline. I believe is by middle of January. Hence, you have seen the price of Bitcoin appreciate quite rapidly on the past few weeks based on those news. So I think what most people are doing is buy the rumor, sell the news. So I'm not sure what's going to happen after it gets approved. Chris said something really interesting in regards to the ETF and gold, because nowadays there's a lot of financial experts, and I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm in the field believing that with the gold ETF, we just don't have the physical gold backed 1-to-1. There's a lot of paper gold out there, and
same with silver too. The manipulation.
Yes, same with silver. So it's a highly manipulated market, because if everybody wants to cash in their ounces of gold or their kilos of gold, I don't think there'll be enough gold to go around, and that's the problem. So there's a
But
lot.
Julio, also, and I don't mean to interrupt, but the way that the trading of gold and silver and precious metals takes place on like the stock market and things to that effect is through paper trading. So it's not as if, and that's where the financialization of things kind of come into play. That's where like ETFs come into play to represent SID, because it's like the SID asset, because it's not as if these banks are trading the physical gold and physical silver against each other, which is what also makes it a lot easier for these financial institutions to manipulate the price. And if you ask why would they want to manipulate the price, in gold specifically, a rising price of gold is an indication of a failure of the currency that's currently in play. So a rising gold price, when we've seen gold hit 2,100, means that we're seeing a failure in the US dollar. Go ahead and continue. I'm sorry, Julio.
Absolutely, Chris. No, thank you for adding that. So gold, as Chris mentioned, is a store of value. So people call it God's money. It's been around for 5,000 years. So it's a way to preserve your capital, to basically diversify your assets, and to have something that the government cannot take away from you. Because most fiat currency devalued over time, over 90%. Just during the pandemic, 2021, 2022, I believe we printed over 40% of our supply in terms of fiat currency, the M2 money supply. So the government keeps printing money. They have a machine that just keeps printing whenever they want. And obviously that is the reason why we have the inflation, up to 9% last year, and fighting inflation, and the Fed trying to, bring the inflation down through several measurements, specifically through quantitative tightening, and obviously raising interest rates, which are, at all-time highs right now. I believe Treasury yields are anywhere between 5.5%. So a lot of people are usually putting their money on this Treasury bills because they deem it safe. It has a high interest rate, more than any bank account is giving you right now. But back to the Bitcoin ETF, the approval, one of my concerns, and Chris, maybe you can, shed some light on the subject. I believe these huge institutions, which are the ones who are basically the puppeteers, right, manipulating the entire financial system, like BlackRock, who owns pretty much every large company out there, are trying to also manipulate Bitcoin through an ETF. And to me, it's not going to be the same, obviously, having physical Bitcoin, having possession of it, whether it's in a cold wallet storage, which is the most secure, or an exchange, versus, having an ETF, which is kind of like a paper Bitcoin.
And I get what you're saying. A lot of people have speculated that, and I've had a lot of conversations with people in regards to that subject, some of which are on my channel over on the Rice Crypto side on YouTube. Ultimately, it doesn't really suit. And if you look at if you follow like what happened with gold, gold has been kind of what was on a several multi-year rip. I wouldn't say like parabolic, but upward action after the ETF was introduced. It doesn't necessarily suit these entities to have the price of Bitcoin necessarily go down, except for them to buy. Because they gotta have the actual asset. And when you were dealing with these kind of institutions, the saying is that they don't buy until there's blood on the street, even if it's their own blood. And with the situation with a bunch of green candles, that is the very opposite of blood on the street.
Yeah.
I still feel like we have some downward action to go, and it may be a possible delay of the ETF not in early January. I'm not 100% sure. There's a lot of pressure being put on the SEC when it comes to it. But you mentioned something really interesting, the Treasury bond market. The Treasury bond market is the debt-based system that is the foundation of our debt-based system, and the cracks of the foundation are breaking. We've seen inverted yield curves, which are a sign of recession to come. The recession actually hits when an uninversion of the yield curve comes in. If you're like, what is an inverted yield curve? You have different years of Treasury bonds. And the way that it would work in theory is the shorter time period bonds you buy would yield a less of a return. So a 2-year would yield less than a 5-year, and a 5-year would yield less than a 10-year. So a 10-year should yield more than a 2-year. When we see an inversion in the yield curve, a 2-year either meets or exceeds the 10-year, which we're
seeing that right now.
Well,
right.
That's already taken place. Now we're seeing the uninversion take place, which would signify that we are going to be going into a recession. So we have the Federal Reserve. They have their last meeting, the FOMC meeting next Wednesday, a week from today, the 13th. I think it'd be about 2:30 p.m. Eastern time that Chair Powell will get on and say what they're going to be doing, whether they're going to continue pausing, raise interest rates, or lower interest rates. That's going to let us know kind of like the direction of where we're headed. A lot of people think the pause is going to continue. But what I was getting
when is that, Chris? When is that?
Next Wednesday. They meet Tuesday and Wednesday, the 12th and 13th, but they make the decision publicly and have a press conference on Wednesday, somewhere around 2 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. It should be starting. And that's the last one of the year. Now, again, the reason I mentioned the Treasury bonds is because when we started seeing a bunch of bank failures take place at the beginning of this year. And a lot of the reason that we've seen these bank failures wasn't because of things that these banks were doing were risky and things to that effect. We were in a really interesting environment with low interest rates or zero interest rates. And a lot of these banks were buying up what would be considered safe assets, which are Treasury bonds. But when the interest rates kept going up, it made the yield on what these Treasury bonds go down. And so in some cases, even in the negative. So they would be selling at a loss. So in order for a bank to be able to give said funds to their customers when they want to withdraw X amount of money, and the bank doesn't physically have it, they have to liquidate some of those Treasury bonds. And they could do that at a loss, which puts them in a very precarious position. So I really feel like we have this consolidation of the banking system going on, and the Treasury bond market cracking as a foundation of our debt-based system is going to show further action taking place with more banks having issues. And the idea of this, and this is getting back full circle, Julio, is Bitcoin ETF allows for the financialization of Bitcoin. And in an ironic way, the quicker they can pass a Bitcoin ETF and the more demand there is for a Bitcoin ETF, the more that these banks can capitalize off of the financialization in a multitude of ways, and actually help some of these banks that are underwater because of these Treasury bond markets actually get out from being under the water, because they have a very profitable financial instrument that they can utilize. So I don't think it benefits them once the ETF is launched to manipulate the price. Plus, the more money that we get coming into this thing, the harder it's going to be to manipulate it. And a lot of money is kind of sitting there on the sidelines, ready to enter the market as soon as there is a way to do it from a traditional angle. And when I talk about money, I'm talking about like UAE, UAE, Dubai, lots and lots and lots of money. So, could there be a lot of manipulation between now and the approval? And could there be some downward action after the approval? Because I don't think once we get the approval, it's just off to the races. Another thing is too, and Julio may be able to fill me in on this, is we're in a really interesting point in the market cycle, because we have a halving event taking place for Bitcoin in mid to late April. And what that is every 4 years, the supply of Bitcoin is reduced. That's mined every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes, there's a new block mined, henceforth a blockchain, and the miner that is able to solve that particular algorithm equation that wins that block there's new Bitcoin minted, plus they get transaction fees. I think right now it's 6.5 Bitcoin, if I'm not mistaken, is produced every 10 minutes, and that will be reduced down to 3.25 at the halving. So it's supposed to reduce the supply coming out as the demand grows. And that's where you kind of get the typical understanding of supply and demand. And that's kind of where we're headed within the Bitcoin market. But now we don't
what is the why when Bitcoin is it's extremely valuable, what's the point of the halving? Why do you do that? Why would they do that?
Because it keeps up with the supply and demand. Because if you keep having more supply coming out and there's less demand, then you have the reverse effect and price goes down. So this is the most scarcest asset on the planet. We may be able to find more gold in the ocean, on asteroids, silver, and things like that. But as of now, without any changes to the code, and it would be really hard to implement at this point, not impossible, there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever. It's the scarcest asset on the planet.
Julio, I want to ask your perspective on that. 21, we were talking about that too the other night. 21 million Bitcoin. That's a lot of people are talking about it. It seems so small in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
Why
that's
so
not even
bottom?
one Bitcoin? That's not even one Bitcoin for every person in the world. But Julio,
exactly.
let me finish real quick, and I'll keep it real short. Is we don't usually see the kind of price action that we see in Bitcoin specifically before the halving, like we see right now. We usually see it take place after a halving period. So where we are in the market cycle from a traditional 4-year stance, to me, we're at a very unusual point. It's almost as if we're disconnected from reality, in my opinion. But we could be things could be changing because of the spot ETF and the financialization of Bitcoin and Bitcoin being considered more of a safe haven asset, more of a store of value, which we could see a run in equities like your precious metals, and Bitcoin could be included in that equation. So where we are, because there's so much speculation, Julio, like, are we in a bull market? Are we in a bull market yet? And in my opinion,
that was my next question.
We're in a bull market. We're in a bull phase of a bear market.
Yes.
In my opinion.
That's a very good way to put it.
That's how you see it too, Julio?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Because, for us to be in a true bull market, I would think Bitcoin will have to break all-time highs, which is north of 69,000. And I'm not saying that may not happen with this ETF, but I think the current price of Bitcoin is already pricing in the approval of the ETF. So yeah, it might pop during the approval because of the news and people might go into it, but I believe it might have a correction at some point because people who are currently accumulating, smart hedge funds, financial investors, they're going to go ahead and cash in on their profits. So back to your question, Bitcoin, when it was written by, Chris, what was the name? Satoshi Nakamoto?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
It was designed to be disinflationary in nature.
Versus the dollar, which is inflationary. So
correct.
the opposite of the money printer go burr.
Yes. So, and that's the beauty of it. That's why people like, the president of El Salvador adopted it, because he believes in the deflationary nature, knowing that at some point in the future, Bitcoin is going to be worth maybe 10 times of what it is today. Who knows? There's some people out there that say it's going to be worth $1 million. I'm a technician, so I look at the charts. I believe it when I see it. I believe in Bitcoin 100%, but it's a deflationary nature. As a side note, just a fun fact, over 65% of currently Bitcoin is actually locked away or stored. So it's not currently in circulation, being exchanged or,
this
traded.
is outside the 21 million or included in that 20 million?
Of the Bitcoin that's in existence now, we're at the lowest point, the lowest numbers since 2017 of Bitcoin being on exchanges. So what Julio is saying is that 65% of Bitcoin is being held in self-custody by people, which means that they're holding it for at least more they're not trying to sell right now. An indication they're trying to sell is moving your cryptocurrency from a self-custody wallet that you possess your private key and moving it to an exchange because you're getting ready to liquidate. So this is a very good sign that even though we are at like 42,000 Bitcoin right now, dollars per Bitcoin right now, you still see people not wanting to sell because they have a glimpse into the future of where Bitcoin is headed.
I want to ask both of you your opinion on this one from a human perspective, a human psyche perspective. There's a lot of this going on, and Julio, if you don't mind, I'll let you go on this one first. What is your opinion on that statement? Bitcoin was used for nefarious things, to pay for traffickers, etc. Is there anything insight on that as far as that it was designed initially for people that were using it for nefarious purposes, you think?
I don't believe so. I mean, people use cash to do, all kinds of drug deals and human trafficking and whatnot. Obviously cash is untraceable. The beauty of Bitcoin is that it is traceable. So why would you make something that you can trace on the blockchain be used for nefarious purposes, where it's going to go back to your wallet, to you, basically, trucking back to you? So I believe that's ignorance out there. Obviously, yes, when Silk Road came around, the website on the dark web where people used to buy drugs and whatever, Bitcoin was being used, because obviously you can't be shipping cash or paying with your credit card. So that was a fun. And I believe that rumor came from those transactions. Yes, of course, Bitcoin's always going to be used for certain purposes that are not, peer-to-peer transactions for goods and services. Sometimes they're going to be for, those illegal transactions, but so it is cash. So it is, precious metals and all kinds of things, guns. So, yeah.
Okay. Chris, your opinion on that?
Before I give the answer, I want to say that the two most commonly found things on especially US dollars is cocaine residue and fecal matter. So
good point.
Money is dirty, and I totally agree with what Julio said. The blockchain, which is the underlying technology of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, is a transparent ledger, like an accounting system, a debit credit system. And like Julio said, it's not completely anonymous. It's what is referred to as pseudo anonymous. You have a form of anonymity, but it's not complete anonymity. And based off of chain analysis, which is a way of being able to utilize these transaction histories via blockchains, different information that's kind of time stamped on the internet, can figure out, and government agencies and stuff can figure out who owns what and kind of get an idea. So to use Bitcoin for nefarious purposes would just be a very counterintuitive thing to do, because you're just kind of displaying what you're doing to everybody. And it's just a matter of figuring out the pieces of the puzzle and proving that you're guilty. Which has happened a lot. Now, have criminals use Bitcoin? They have it, but again, it's not smart. It's so much smarter to use cash right now, because it's not trackable. Now, if they start putting things like chips and money, then it's going to be a little bit more. They can trace things.
CBDC. Coming in.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm talking like the physical money with the chip in it. Who knows?
Bro, yeah.
I don't think our physical money has chips in it, but if they had physical currency out that had chips in it, that would be a way to be able to track that a little bit better. But to use Bitcoin for those purposes doesn't make any sense. And for anybody who thinks that Bitcoin was created by nefarious actors or by government entities, the thing about Bitcoin is the entire code of what creates Bitcoin is a repository on GitHub, and all the code can be reviewed. And if you are a coder, a cryptographer, and you understand these technologies, which I do not, but I have people around me that I trust, you can review the code. You can trust it. You don't have to trust the actual saying in cryptocurrency is don't trust, verify. You can verify these things.
Yes.
There's so much hoopla around Ripple. And I know your philosophy is, if you're going to invest in crypto, stick with the blue chips. Where does Ripple come in your perspective with that? And where do you see it going?
I would consider Ripple to be a blue chip. It's not necessarily anything that's going to be like in your top 10, top 20 for the most part. It's going to be blue chip. Ones that you're seeing financial institutions that are doing things outside of the normal cryptocurrency element. A good indicator is a company called Grayscale. They have multiple trusts set up that are ultimately they want to turn into ETFs, one of which is a Bitcoin trust. They want to turn into a Bitcoin ETF, the GBTC. And you can look at the kind of projects that they have different trusts for. They have an Ethereum trust. They have a Litecoin trust, Chainlink. I would consider those that I just mentioned to be blue chips. The thing about XRP is this, and not all cryptocurrencies are the same or have the same purpose for creation or use case. And where Bitcoin is supposed to be created as a peer-to-peer cash, now kind of being also a store of value, XRP itself was, and the XRP ledger, which is a blockchain or distributed ledger technology behind the actual token that it sits on. The company behind it is a company called Ripple. So you have a centralized company behind the decentralized blockchain of XRP. The CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, is on the board of directors for the World Economic Forum. Ripple is also a partner of the World Economic Forum. Ripple's purpose of existence is to be a remittance system, a way of transferring money around the world within a traditional financial system. So their idea from the very beginning was to work with the legacy system, work with TradFi. And if that's what somebody wants to support, then more power to them. I don't personally want to support that. Do I own any XRP? I do. And my goal for XRP, when I do see it going up, I see a lot of these cryptocurrencies going up when we actually hit that traditional bull market. But my strategy, my plan is to sell that XRP to get more Bitcoin or more other cryptocurrencies that I like, because you're going to have more of a return of your investment on something like XRP than Bitcoin. It's easier for XRP to double than it is for Bitcoin. Yeah. And if I double my XRP so I can increase my Bitcoin stack, then, you know, more power to me. People are going to trade XRP regardless, but I'm not one of these people who consider myself to be part of the XRP army and support this project that's basically a banker's coin.
Yeah. And Chris, quick question. Now that we're touching on XRP, what do you think obviously they won the case, the SEC case. They were deemed not a security.
It's not over. They almost won. Right,
almost won, because I believe now they're getting again into a core battle again, which is going to drag possibly until maybe late next year. Who knows? Maybe 2 years. What do you think this is going to end up?
Honestly, I don't know. Because I'm trying to figure out why the United States is going after XRP in this manner. Being that XRP is a World Economic Forum partner, and it doesn't seem like the United States is against, at least the government is not against the World Economic Forum. So it seems to be kind of counteractive to what is going on. So I've been trying to figure that out myself, because a lot of people have been speculating. Well, a lot of people have been speculating the XRP or the XRP ledger may be used with FedNow and some sort of a CBD in the United States, but I don't think that would be the case. It is possible, and I think there are other central banks or nations looking at building central bank digital currencies on the XRP ledger. So if you guys have heard the term ISO 10022, or however people want to pronounce it, that is basically, it's a way of being able to connect all these different digital systems that aren't the same. So you may have a central bank digital currency in China that's using X technology. You may have a central bank digital currency in India that's using Y technology, and you have to have a way to connect X and Y together. And it's kind of like a bridge. So this technology is a bridge that allows for the communication and transfer of these digital commodities within the ecosystems that aren't in the same ecosystem to begin with, if that makes any sense. So it's putting standards that allow for same thing that's within banks that happened with transferring of cash and things to that effect. But now you have these new technologies. So it's integrating all these different digital payment rails into one way of having a bridge from going from one to the other, from A to B, from X to Y, from M to Q, whatever the situation might be. So regardless of how different these things are, there's a way for them to be interconnected. So there's even people in the cryptocurrency space that are speculating which coins are have been approved by the ISO 20022 when there's technically no coins that are approved. It's just a protocol you're supposed to implement if you want it to be utilized within the bigger system.
Yeah. I have some exciting information to share at the end regarding the SWIFT system. So I believe XRP's goal when it first came out in Ripple was to replace that archaic system where you send a wire transfer and it takes days and it doesn't go through the weekends and it's very costly and is non-reversible, or sometimes it is, but it's a very old system that banks use it, but they've been using it for decades. So
Julio,
yes.
Are you familiar with Chainlink?
Yes, and that's the touch that I wanted to talk about.
Because Chainlink is the whole point of Chainlink is it's an Oracle service, and it would allow for communication between different blockchains and different outside technologies that aren't blockchains. So that way it could communicate with the financial systems, with banks, all these different things. And Chainlink has partnered up with Swift to basically upgrade Swift to be competitive in this digital age that we're entering into. So I think it's going to be the world of choices. It's going to depend on where you're at, what jurisdiction you happen to be in.
Absolutely.
How do they you guys okay, so people are now starting to take Bitcoin for cars or for homes or large purchases, if you would. How are they able to, with the volatility of it all, how are they be able to make those? How are these businesses being able to accept that? Like, what premise? Is there anybody that says if you do, or maybe their financiers say, if you do take this Bitcoin, we'll guarantee that it won't go below a certain amount? Are they doing some sort of side deals when you take a look at these larger transactions, you think?
I don't believe that's possible. I mean, nobody can control the price of Bitcoin. If I sell you my house for $1 million and I say, hey, I'll take Bitcoin as payment, and tomorrow Bitcoin drops from 44,000, which it is right now, to 30,000, I just lost, 20%.
That was your bet.
Yeah. So basically, maybe people will receive it and then exchange it for USDT or USDC to protect themselves. Right now you can put money on USDC, which is United States coin, which is a little bit different than Tether, and is paying a 5.10% APY if you park your money there. So it's paying you basically the same interest that
you're talking about Coinbase, though. You're kind of you got to have your money parked on Coinbase specifically.
Yes,
it's not a United States coin. It's just a stable coin. It's a private company, but the stable coin is supposed to be a digital representation of the dollar, but it's not government related.
Correct. Yeah, it's pegged to the dollar, but it's not government related. Just like USDT, Tether is also not related to a government. It's just a stable coin. Just like there's a lot of other stable
But these stable coins are very similar to what you would have, if not the same thing, for the most part, as a central bank digital currency, because it's all just programmable currency. With Tether and USDC, and Tether is USDT. These are the tickers on for trading and for utilizing these particular. Those two particular stable coins have worked with government agencies, and they can actually freeze funds. So let's say some nefarious actors are doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, and they're in possession of X amount of USDT Tether or USDC, then the government can go to Tether or USDC, show them enough information, and because it's a centralized entity and because they have control of their blockchain in this manner, they can freeze that wallet's funds.
Yeah. Chris, I have a question. I know we're coming down to the end, but what determines how many coins get processed? For example, you have Bitcoin, you have 21 million. Then you have these altcoins that have a quadrillion coin, a quadrillion, a gazillion.
Some don't even have a limit.
Right. Some don't even have a limit. So what is the determining factor of
That's a good
how many
question.
coins are actually produced?
It's generally happening at the creation side of these particular technologies. So it's when the code is being created, they would set however many tokens that they want to have in existence, depending on how they create the tokens. Like I could create a token on the Ethereum network, create 1 billion tokens, and have all billion tokens right then and there. Or you can set mechanisms where no coins are produced initially, and the only way to get coins is through mining or staking. And that, again, these are protocols for being able to validate each block to see who wins the reward or distributes the reward amongst the people that are staking. I know there's a little high tech talk, and I was thinking about this too. Like, I don't know if we got too high tech on this. Maybe in the future, if we do this again, we could just like answer direct questions and just keep it as simple as possible without trying to go off on tangents that may be going way over people's heads. I'm trying to keep this information as simple as possible.
I think we kept it pretty balanced, actually.
Great, man.
Yeah,
I really do.
So Dogecoin is a meme coin that most people are familiar with.
Yeah.
Dogecoin doesn't have a max supply of coins. It's very much money printer go burr, except for you just can't burr as much Dogecoin as you want. There's a certain allotment of Dogecoin that are created at every time a block is solved, and it's a lot faster than 10 minutes. I think it's faster than 2 minutes, but I'm not exactly sure the block time of Dogecoin. But there will always be more Doge created. So when it comes to like using cryptocurrencies for everyday spending, in theory, a lot of people don't want to use something like Bitcoin because it is scarce. And it's kind of funny that Satoshi Nakamoto, the individual or the group that created Bitcoin, wanted it to be used as a peer-to-peer cash system, but only created it with 21 million coins to be the most scarcest asset in the world, which then you can look at something called Gresham's law, which is a theory that people would rather spend bad money than good money. So in this particular instance, I don't want to buy pay my bills or buy food with Bitcoin because Bitcoin, because I know so many people who have stories of buying a shirt back in 2016 and paid 2 Bitcoin for the shirt because they were paying like maybe $60 or $70. I may be off on the price, but just to kind of give you an idea. And then
Domino's purchase.
Fast forward to today, that shirt now is worth like $80,000, $88,000 shirt. Yeah. So I would rather use my Dogecoin for those kind of things.
Yeah, I second that for sure.
Did I answer? I wasn't sure if there's another part there.
Yeah, that's all right. Listen, we're getting down to the end, you guys, and I want to get your last opinions on this. Julio, if I can start with you on this. In today's world, 2023, and I know it can be very overwhelming for people to explore what we're talking about. Even Chris alluded to that about sometimes going over people's head. That all being said, Julio, your opinion of on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it that people at least explore cryptocurrency in their lifetime as an option for them and their families?
Well, I believe it's over important. And of course, some countries like ours, where we are in the US, we're blessed with good internet connection, technology, decent services. A lot of areas in the world that just don't have the same basic services that we take here for granted. So there's a lot of people that are never going to be able to access, or it'll be very hard for them to be able to access to have an iPhone, a computer, to be able to sign up money, to buy the cryptocurrencies, to learn how to do it, to have everything that we have here. So for the people who are capable, I believe it's very important, because not only Bitcoin, but the blockchain technology as a whole, it really is the future. It's still in diapers, and it continues to evolve, and it will evolve just like the internet evolved back in the 90s, where it was something that we were not sure about. And look, now we completely dependent on the internet for absolutely everything. So the blockchain down the road is my belief that it's going to also be gain popularity, and it's going to be used for a lot of things that you can even think of. logistical transactions, peer-to-peer payments, purchasing, tracking. So it has a lot of applications that we're still discovering. Obviously, there's a lot of cryptocurrencies out there. So Chainlink being one that I'm very excited about for one of the reasons that Chris talks about, and some research that I've done in regards to how all these ETF and ETNs are being approved. So we can touch more about that on a follow-up interview down the road. But it's definitely some exciting news there, and some trends that I have identified that I would like to tell our viewers so they can do their own research and get prepared.
Okay, right on.
Great.
Cliff, your opinion on that? Every modern family, the importance in today's world, a modern family having some form of cryptocurrency in their household portfolio.
I would say a requirement. I mean, we're entering, and we're in the cusp. We're there. We're entering into this entire digital age. Everything is becoming digital. They're going to introduce a central bank digital currency of some type that everyone's going to be using in the future. So one, you might as well get ahead of the technologies too. So, I mean, that's really important. Now here in the United States, it doesn't seem like it does in other nations, but cryptocurrency has been a blessing to people in other countries that have experienced hyperinflation, like Venezuela, where they're waking up one day and the next day their money is half the value that it was prior to, because it's just constantly losing value because the inflation is getting so high. It goes into a hyperinflation. So people in Venezuela and Zimbabwe, they had mainly Venezuela in this particular instance, because it happened in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. We've been seeing major economic problems there. And so if you had your little bit of money in something like cryptocurrency that was at least maintaining its value, not losing value, then you were kind of up a little bit versus people who were putting all their money in the actual currency of Venezuela and then losing value on it constantly. The other thing is you have people around the world that don't have access, like Julio said, to technologies, but banking. And that's one of the things that cryptocurrency allows for, is people to bank themselves, be their own bank. Here in the United States, we have banks everywhere. Pretty much every street corner, you might have more banks than you have churches. I think it's a competition of which one there is, more churches or banks. But so we have a lot of these conveniences other people around the world don't. But at the same time, I think that things like hyperinflation could come here to the United States. I mean, we're definitely seeing high forms of inflation, and with everything going on, the Federal Reserve may be reversing course and may have to start injecting money back into the system, which will cause even more inflation. And the more that other countries are losing faith in a dollar, the more those dollars are going to come back to our country. And then the combination thereof is going to create that hyperinflation. So that's where I think people should at least get their feet wet with these technologies. And being that now for Bitcoin specifically, being that you're seeing these ETFs being introduced and such, I definitely encourage people to try to get as close to a full Bitcoin as possible by doing something called dollar cost averaging. And that's just coming up with a strategy to buy X amount of whatever asset at whatever set price, no matter the price of the asset. So let's say you figure every Friday, I'm going to put $10 into whatever it is you want to buy. So in this particular instance, Bitcoin. And there's an awesome website. It's just 6 letters, DCA, like dollar cost average, BTC, which is the ticker for Bitcoin, DCABTC.com. And it's a calculator that would tell you, like, if you had, invested X amount of cash over X amount of time period, bought X amount of time, like once a month, twice a month, 4 times a month, whatever the situation might be. The idea is that if you purchase every Friday $10 a week, regardless what the price is it's reducing that volatility of all the up and down action.
I never thought about dollar cost averaging crypto. That's a very, very, very good idea.
Hey guys,
well, if you look at that website, it'll show you too, like where had you invested 4 years ago, $10 a month. It'll tell you how many dollars you invested, what the percentage gain or loss is, and such. So it's a really good tool.
Okay, right on.
Very
Hey
good.
guys,
Thanks.
Thank you.
this is why we do this, everybody. Again, we want to really bring light on what's available. Again,
And
this
knowledge.
isn't investment advice, but it is something for you to explore, you know, in the journey in life, right? And we want to thank our soul brothers, Chris Rice and Julio Marcano, for really your service, your dedication to truly, you know, working on helping people have a better existence. So much love to you both on that and your continued journey. So thanks for that.
Thank you both.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Real
And
quick-
together
real quick,
with, yeah,
I just want to tell people, never invest more than you're willing to lose, and don't
That's for
invest more
sure.
than you can afford to invest. Don't take a mortgage out or a second mortgage out and invest that money. Be smart.
Very good sound advice. Thank you so much. And together with the both of you, we are turning the universal key to global harmony and creating a unified world. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, tune in often, tell all your friends, and most importantly, make all your dreams come true. Hit the like button and subscribe. Many blessings.
See you guys next time.
All right, take care.